So let's talk about thinking outside the box. It's so daunting to stand here. So when I teach my students in Malta, I like to say to them, if you're in a room and you look around and you're the smartest person in the room, find another room. And I can assure you, I am in the right room today. I work for 3 different nonprofits, the College of Remote and Offshore Medicine. I started that, and then I hired a lot more smarter people than me to run it. And I helped start the Faculty of Rural, Remote, and Humanitarian Healthcare in Edinburgh. And Sean Keenan started SMS, and he was kind enough to invite me on. SMS owns the Prolonged Field Care Working Group and the austere emergency care courses. Courage. So I looked it up. So courage from the Oxford Dictionary means that you can face your fears and stand fast and do something against them. And I'm like, okay, let's balance that with what the North Americans have, which is the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Courage is facing your fears and holding fast, stand fast. So I guess the difference is those of you from North America will stand there and take it, and everyone here in Europe will do something about it. I have both passports, so I can. This is a follow-on from last year when Dr. Sean Keenan was standing right here, and he talked about prolonged field care and people over products, and I'll hit that again shortly. But what is improvised medicine? So when I started in EMS in the late 80s, the Wilderness Medical Society was the only thing there, and they led. They came up with CPGs, they did publications on improvised medicine, and they've been joined by tons and tons of journals and smart people. And we have progressed to have more and more of an evidence base behind the improvised medicine and more publications. So our college is making a clearinghouse for that. We're starting the Journal of Improvised Medicine to focus on this. It's open access and peer review to be able to push this forward. And we're trying to put academic rigor behind improvised medicine. So at our college in Malta, we implement evidence-based improvised medicine as much as we can. But what is improvised medicine? It can be simple. It can be a pair of gloves blown up, tied off, taped together, and this increases patient comfort. Ischemia starts within 30 minutes of your casualty laying on a hard surface. So you get one of these, you put it under the occiput, between the rhomboids, the sacrum, under the popliteal areas and the ankles, and you have just sorted your ischemia problem with patients. It could be a little more complex. This is a wound vac that I've kind of put together, still doing research on it, but wound vacs are about 125 to 175 millimeters of mercury. So we replicated that with a 60 mil tube syringe and some oxygen tubing. So we would cut fenestrations into the end of the oxygen tubing because it always gets clogged, doesn't it? And then we found that the 60 mil tube syringe was too much negative pressure. So we found about halfway, so for 60 mils, about 30 mils of negative pressure, you clamp it off, and it works for a couple minutes. And you have to continually do this. So find somebody, like your cook, to, wait, he's got to feed you. Find a driver to keep on this every minute to draw negative pressure. Improvised tourniquets. So of all the publications, this probably has the most on, and we need that. And what we're showing is, as long as you have a windlass, you can create a decent improvised tourniquet. This picture is from a study I did last summer on improvised tourniquets, and I submitted to JSOM, which I didn't start either. I'm not a founder of that. And I looked at something that no one else did. So there's a lot of studies, as it should be, you want to look at how well do they do. They do well, we know that. So I looked at pain. So I had 3 different types of improvised tourniquets. One was the TCCC approved bandana, and then a bed sheet, and then, of course, the Mylar. And the outcomes was that the bandana was about 8 out of 10 pain in the Likert scale. And the bed sheet was about 5 out of 10 pain. And the Mylar blanket, which is everywhere, and we don't like it because it blows away and it makes lots of noise, it was 2 out of 10 pain. So this bit of kit, unfortunately, continues to show that it's very, very good. I have 5 of these in my medical kit because it's good for hypothermia as well. One byproduct of this study was quite interesting. We found that any improvised device you have for a tourniquet, you must start in the middle, and then you put it over right above your wounding site, and you go in opposite directions, and you wrap. And you don't want to get anything larger than about 15 centimeters. What, 5 inches for you Americans? And what we found, if it's wider than that, the pressure no longer dissipates. So this is still a really good evidence-based bit of kit. It can be simple. It can be using a probe cover. I know where my probe has been. It is not sterile. I definitely need to make it sterile if I'm going to puncture the skin or do a block or something like that. So you use a surgical glove, use the finger of it, and it'll cover. And there's 5 probe covers in each glove, and they come in pairs, so you have 10. And we found that if you're really good in removing all the air, you don't need to put gel between the ultrasound and the finger. This is a suction EZ. It's very popular in austere environments because it's lightweight, it works pretty well, but it doesn't fit into an ET tube. So you can take an IV line, cut the drip chamber in half, it fits right on the end of that, and now you have something that will suction a little bit out of your ET tube. And this. This is a study I'm currently working on, currently getting data points. This is a junctional tourniquet. There are some good studies on improvised junctional tourniquets, and most of them are coming across the body. So my challenge to myself, so I talked to myself, we need to come up with a way to do this one side. So the premise is we need something to pull that strap higher up, because if you push your tourniquet here and your junctional tourniquet and you tighten it, it's going to slip down, 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 down. So I'm using Kelly's with another device below it. This is a tourniquet that's not all the way tight. And those of you that did the workshop this week, we did this with just a triangular bandage and it worked just as well. But what this does, it gets your junctional tourniquet just a little closer to that inguinal ligament. And the other advantage, it doesn't come across. So the cat tourniquets are too small to go one wrap around people, especially in America. So you have to do 2. You have to daisy chain them. Now it's 2 of your tourniquets that are gone. The SWAT, or the soft T, which is my favorite, that's so wide it's hard to get through the rings of the Kellys. So this will only take 1 of your tourniquets to do, and it won't cause pain. So as soon as you push pressure anywhere, you're going to have pain on the other side. Pelvic binder. On the right, this is from the TCCC. There is a really good study by Paul Parker and the BMJ about using trousers to stabilize the pelvis. So you're not going to get the 14 kilos of the Americans. That's 32 pounds of pressure, but it is better. And an interesting cadaveric study last summer showed that binding the feet was the majority of your immobilization. So if you bind the feet, about 80% of the stabilization of the whole system. So bind the feet as well as doing your binding. Top left, you have an MPA with a Toomey tip syringe. You notice Toomey tips show up a lot in improvised medicine. And on the bottom left will be a 128 hertz tuning fork. And I found this on PubMed. There's 2 studies called, I said, it's bollocks, it's not going to work, but it does. So for some reason, 128 hertz, when you have a fracture, bone fracture, it vibrates it enough that causes a lot of pain. I can vouch for this personally with an avulsion fracture I had. And so you twist your ankle, and there's a lot of CPGs from the Wilderness Medical Society and auto ankle rules. But if you use this, you can see an avulsion fracture, where I can't see that with my ultrasound at all. Or you can use stethoscope, and if you have a long bone, stethoscope on one end, tuning fork on the other, and the sound will be muffled if it's fractured. This is my back garden. I have a very tolerant German wife. They do exist. So my premise was, can we reduce the temperature loss from an IV line? So I have 4 lines up, and I used 1 layer of cling film, 2 layers of cling film, and on the right is 3 layers of cling film. And I poured 40-degree water at the top, and I used my IR camera to get a definitive temperature at the bottom. So as you can imagine, 1 layer of cling film is better than none, and 2 is better than 1. But the interesting thing is, once you get past 2 layers of cling film, it wasn't that much of an improvement. So at the moment, I think it's 2 layers of cling film is a good option. But if you're bored, do 7. Cling film's cheap. The cook has it, right? Because you didn't use them for the vacuum. I know what you're saying. This will never happen to me. I'm a HEMS paramedic, and I work in the A&E, and I have a wall full of kit. Awesome. That is the best option. But what if this happens? Two months ago in Spain, luckily the wire cutters in the front of the airframe did its job, but they still got a bit of a shock. Fantastic piloting skills, as you would imagine on a HEMS. He lands safely. And of course you're saying, oh, it's Spain, they're grand. It's middle of winter Spain. What if that was your platform here in Switzerland, or northern Scandinavia, or Alaska, or British Columbia? Do you have the capacity, the resilience, the adaptability of your mindset to create something within your airframe to keep everyone warm, keep that patient alive, and waiting for evac in the morning? So it should be a part of your mindset regardless of where you are. So Winston Churchill was attributed to this. I'm not sure if he actually said that, but he who fails to plan is planning to fail. And I thought about bringing a stogie and a cognac. It'd be a little bit better. In the Army, we call it the 5 Ps. Prior planning prevents piss-poor performance. And I kept arguing that 6 Ps, but the Army didn't agree with me. You have to plan. And yes, as soon as that first step happens within your plan, it changes. But you have to plan. And this needs to be a contingency within your plan. I call it the 4 pillars of excellence within improvised medicine. We have people over products, which is last year, right? Sean Keenan. The basics done well, adaptive mental model, and the resiliency of improvisation. So people over products. Sean Keenan says that all the time. The kit in the back, awesome. I would love to have it. And if I have it, I'm going to be better at my job. But if I don't have it, you have to train your people to provide as best level of care as you can. The other thing about people over products, I spent a lot of time in Africa, and I've been to some places where you go into this room, there's a CT scanner rusting, propping the door open, because somebody donated the product and didn't bother to train the people. Don't do that. Basics done well. So in the late 80s, I entered the Sheriff's Academy, and 16 weeks, we were training, and we were on the range, and we were firing and firing and firing until we passed the mark. And then they were like, oh, that's great. Here's your badge. Here's your gun. Try not to kill anyone. I don't think they teach that last bit anymore, but... So they sent us out with a minimal training. And luckily, my field training officer was a former Green Beret, and so the first 120 hours out of the academy, you're with your FTO, and all I heard was stories about SF. So of course, I turned in my badge, joined the Army, and got through the Q course, got on my ODA, and we went out to the firing range. I'm like, I got this. So we fired and fired and fired until we passed, but then we fired and fired and fired until we never failed. Basics done well. Within medicine, you can equate that to sling and swath. I can make an amazing sling and swath that will stand and be very comfortable. I tie a little, I got tricks. Tie a little overhand here knot, and it makes a nice pocket. And make sure the knot's not in the back of the throat, because they whinge, and I don't like whinging patients, so you put it off the side and pad, and that's basics. do basics well. Adaptive mental models. So I was teaching improvised medicine in Poland, and I taught him this model, which I already talked to you about, the two gloves. And I turned around, and they had already adapted it. So that's a lot more comfortable than the one I came up with. So you have to think outside the box. You have to adapt your models. Resiliency. So the resiliency means that you can see a bit of a kit and think. I mean, maybe I'm the only one awake at night, slowly going to sleep, thinking, oh, I bet I could do that with this device. So the resiliency of improvisation. Know what you have and what it can do. This is, as an Irishman, there's only a matter of time before I reference something about alcohol, right? So we moved to Germany. We were living in Ireland for about a decade and a half, and my German wife is like, I'm tired of the rain. You have two choices. You can either come with me to Germany or you can stay here in Ireland. So we moved to Germany and I found out it's all right. But we happened to live right across the street from this vineyard. And no, it didn't have any influence on why we moved there. So excellent wine in the Nalha Valley of Germany. So go next door, grab a box. They started putting 6 bottles of wine. And then they made a bubble wrap, and it was not inflated, and they inflated it, and they gave me the wine. And immediately, I knew. I invented this. So you can use wine. So there's a good justification for you managers to have wine in your stations, but it comes non-inflated, and then you orally inflate it. And you guys used it in the snow this week, and you have to be able to see something like this and think, what's the resiliency of this product? Or, Toomey tip, we mentioned that. The resiliency of the Toomey tip syringe in austere medicine is insane, the things you can do. You can open it up and put lots and lots of vials in there so they don't break, and tons of stuff. My challenge to you is to find the courage to improvise. And for those of you from North America, you're going to stand there and face this fear. And for those of us in Europe, I challenge you to do something about it.